Drip edge is missing at the front left. Some moisture related damage noted. The drip edge at the back left of patio cover was loose. The gutters metal strapping was loose with debris and loss of granules. I'm at one of the metal back windows. You can see here we're missing the Z flashing or the rain cap over the window. You can see the stucco doesn't go all the way in, so every time it rains it gets in between these channels. We have some cracks both at the top, the bottoms on both sides. At the 22.5-degree miter cut at the front right, damage to the fascia board. Just an FYI, there's no hurricane clips in the attic. Now this was built 20 years ago, so it wasn't required at that time. But something to think about today. There was a pot next to the fireplace, right there. And apparently they must have some pests because something has been chewing on these wires. You'll see the chimney flue vent, and then right here on the left hand side, actually it'll be on the right if you're looking at the house, but inside the chimney chase you're going to see some staining, and we're going to go in a little bit and you can see a lot more staining on that OSB. So we need to take a look at some of that flashing at the roof. We need to take a look at some of that stucco and get some of this plywood cleaned and treated to see if it's still sound. Apparently some water has entered here at some point, and verify with the owner why the pot's here. Where was the leak coming from? You know, we're looking at this section, you can see the plywood or OSB looks okay, there's no stains. And if you take a look, of course we got some mud daubers. A mud dauber nest here. The gable vent, I'm sorry, in the front. I made it to the very front of the gable vent. And the OSB is rotten, and that fireplace was all the way in the very back. So we have a hot and neutral reversed where the red and yellow and the wires are backwards. This is at the attic GFCI outlet. As you can see, we should have two yellows or two oranges. We have an orange and a red. So the orange and a red is this one right here, hot and neutral reversed. So upstairs we have two gas furnaces sharing the same air return. This one is the variable speed newer model, and when you open up the door the blower shuts down. This one here, as you can see, the safety switch is not connected, don't even have any wires to it, so when you open up the door it should shut the motor off. We do recommend installing it for safety. All the monoport burners look good. The air flow and the system looks good. There's no rust or anything. Gas valves in good place. Shut-off valves are good. Wiring looks good. A little bit of dust in here. Probably could use some vacuuming on some of the squirrel cage motor, the actual motor. It's not the motor, but the squirrel cage itself at both units, just as general cleaning. The front air supply has a leak in the front where the cold air is leading out on the supply side, so we do recommend sealing that. They did have tape and mastic air seal, which is that gray stuff. This is the foil aluminum tape, and I'll show you on the other unit. This is a so this is the gray mastic, and they got the foil tape and they put the gray masket, and then they have the duct board here, and as you can see I could just stick my fingers in there and the air is coming out here nice and cold. So this is why some of that microbial growth here, we call it, you know, black stains, microbial growth, suspected mold growth, is forming. Guess what? Attic's hot, the cold air comes out, it hits that duct, it shoots back off, dust and condensation gets on it, thus creating the suspected mold growth. The emergency drain pan's good, got the line going to it, primary looks good, got a secondary float switch in place. This is a flat horizontal coil. This one here is an A coil and metal plenum, supply flexible ducts. We always like to see them raised. I think there's one that has some straps on it. Yeah, you see that little black nylon? That kind of keeps it off the ground. We always recommend putting them on because when you lift these up, you usually have stains and suspected mold growth. Why? See, like right there. Why? Because there's no airflow underneath them. This duct gets super cold, the attic super hot, cold follows down to the bottom, thus creating the suspected mold on the thing. If you have straps, air circulates around it the whole time, and you don't have to worry about any condensation. And they also both share in the same gas furnace flue vent. It's supported, and it looks good. All right, now we're on the other side of the evaporator coil. So what we have here is the air return. This is the air being drawn up from inside the house where the filter goes down there in the wall. And then we have a gas furnace, then we have a transom, or a little plenum transition, goes to a flat coil, goes to the supply air, and gets distributed amongst the registers. Same thing here, we got this gas furnace backing up to the air return. We got an A coil here, which is an encasing and a metal supply. You're always going to have a little suspected mold growth here. We always recommend air sealing that. And then we have the evaporator coil, an emergency drain pan. So down there we have the emergency drain pan to catch anything. We have a secondary float switch, that's the one with the black wire. And then we have the primary drain. As you notice, the primary drain is higher and then the secondary is a little lower. I can feel some air coming out right around here with it, because this is a multi-positional coil. So I would tape this up with some foil tape. Just put some tape over that. This is some rubber tex here, or pipe insulation. I'm just going to go ahead and tuck that back in there so we don't condensate. And then apparently the emergency drain pan has a pipe and it goes down and out to the outside of the house. There's no water in it, just some fecal matter from the pest. This is an expansion valve here, right here. And this is a thermocoupling and it's hooked up to the suction line. This is the liquid line and this is the suction line. And basically what this does is it senses the temperature, superheat, subcool, and basically it tells the Freon, tells the refrigerant to open up when there's a heavy heat load and then to shut down. It does the same thing as an orifice that kind of gives it a mist across the evaporator coil. It's supposed to be a better. Down on the lower section we do have some hurricane clips. Again, here's another fireplace. Oh. This is fiberglass insulation, but don't put your knee there because there's nothing there to fall on. Alright, so we got some stains here on this stud and over here, and then and that's a little ladder that they made. I wonder if that's from the stains upstairs all the way to the top. And some more stains right there. Nothing on the plywood though. So anyway, like I said, this house was built, what, 20 years ago. Looks like there's some stains down there by the AC pipe. Of course, you're going to have those stains on the wall. See those little white specks? That is called suspected microbial growth. Suspected mold growth. Basically, there's no insulation on the wall. So the heat in the attic and the cold air on the walls, because that's an interior wall. As you can see, that looks like where the TV is, because there's speakers and speaker wires and cable wires and everything else. So this is an interior wall. It's nice and cold inside, and this is a hot attic. Therefore, hot and cold and the dust, you get the suspected mold growth. So insulate it, cover it. And back in the day, they didn't close off the chimneys, but today we have to close off the chimneys for fire safety, prevent the spread of fire. So At some point, we do recommend getting down in there, insulating those walls, preventing that suspected mold growth. But before you do that, clean it and treat it so it doesn't grow, and then close this off. I'm in the bedroom closet because you come around this corner, there's a bedroom, and this is right where the chimney flue is for the fireplace. You'll see a little piece of delaminated OSB. Now, the older school, they use staples. We can't use staples anymore to secure the OSB roof sheathing to the roof rafters anymore. Like I said, here's the chimney. Right above it, we have some suspected mold growth. And if I can hold this up with the wire, I'll go ahead and probe in it and see. That's not going to stay. Looks like it's loose, but rot here underneath the rafter, but pretty much structurally sound. I would check out that flashing around the chimney just to make sure we don't have any potential leaks or seepage. Even though the flashing up there and the counter flashing look pretty good on the roof. Okay, we now in the attic access. As you come up the stairs, you go into the room on the right, and we'll have another water heater. The gas valve's good. This is a green bonding screw clamped on. That's good. We have the emergency drain pan. Get that out the way. And then back here, it looks good. And then now they got some golf clubs and some other things blocking some stuff. But we'll pull this out the way a little bit and look for that drain pipe. And there's that drain line. And that's connected and that goes out. And this is the TPR pipe. Look, in Mandeville, Covington, St. Tammany, Slidell, they all use the CPVC. It is not rated for this pressure temperature, but the plumbers and the inspectors allow it to pass. So I'm just letting you know. Everybody has it, and they allow it to pass. But if you read the instructions on it, it does not meet these settings of the pressure or the temperature. So it doesn't meet the manufacturer's, but it meets apparently the St. Tammany. Anyway, so Rheem water heater. We got some typical rust here, typical rust there. We had it at the other water heater. This is a single wall pipe. Basically, it's just one piece of metal, sheet metal. They strapped it, and as you notice, it don't go all the way out the jack. So when you go outside and you look at the roof and you look at the jack, it doesn't extend out past the roof jack. So basically, the drafts gets blown back in, the hot and condensation get thrown back around, and then that's what causes the rust on the jack. So the older water heaters, they didn't have to do it. Today, all of them have to go out. Here we have an outlet in the attic, and it's good polarity, 2 oranges, that's good. And I'm going to go ahead and simulate a ground fault circuit like someone's getting shocked, and it doesn't trip. So we do recommend GFCIs, especially around service equipment. And here we have a Cutler Hammer sub electrical panel, and it looks like everything's labeled pretty well. We're getting ready to open it up and take a look. Alright, we're still in the attic, right offside the stairs, and this is that Cutler Hammer panel open. So basically we have all the branch lines coming in. We have all the neutrals here that's isolated from the panel. I wish I could back this thing up a little bit. Then we have all the grounds here that's bonded to the metal frame. These are the 2 hots coming in, feeding the main panel, and everything's labeled. Very beautiful panel, nicely done. Everything is isolated. Now you can always add what they call arc fault circuit interrupters. Wasn't required way back in the day, but today these arc fault circuit breakers protect some of the wires a little better. Also GFCIs and what they call CAFCIs and some other ones, dual fault circuits. Those can always be upgraded at a later time, but at this time the panel looks really good. Alright, we're still in the attic, right off the stairs, come up to the room, and we have a gas furnace and evaporator coil, and inside that pan you can see that water dripping. Or you can see that the pan is filled with water. And this is what I've seen outside. So let's take a look here. This is the primary, this is the secondary. We'll take a look at the primary line. They only insulated here. None of this is insulated. We always do recommend insulating the entire pipe. Let's see if we can get this cap off. And let's see if we can shine the light down in there. Oh yeah, it's clogged. So this line probably needs to be blown out really good, because you can see that water just rising up in there. So once that line gets blown out from being dirty, we should be good. Apparently they had a emergency drain line here, some kind of drain line here. It's not connected anymore. I would assume to say they ran another one. Yep, there's the other one. But full of water. So let's have a take a look at that. Now, if you notice, this evaporator coil doesn't have what they call a float switch. Remember I showed you the other one had a little black wire? If they put a secondary float switch on this side, because you can get a primary float switch, a secondary float switch, and a pan float switch. And if any one of those three sense that water and feel it clogging, it would shut down. You wouldn't have this condition. What you would have, though, is a hot house, and then you go find out what's going on, and then you realize, oh, it's clogged, and it was just a float switch shutting it down because it's clogged. Have it serviced and cleaned. So that's what I recommend. Vacuum this out, have the AC cleaned, blown the lines, service the lines, insulate this, install a float switch. So he's got a little bit of work to do, but not too bad. Again, we still upstairs in the attic where the water was in the pan. Come up the stairs, make a right. So we got the evaporator coil, and if I can zoom in right here, we have a model number. And the model number tells you the size of the evaporator coil. So we got CHPF3636. That 36 right there means 3 tons because we take 12,000 BTUs per ton, or 12,000 BTUs equals 1 ton, and that gives you 12 divided by 36,000 BTUs equals 3 tons. And then if you look at the serial number on a Goodman, the first 2 digits, 20, is the year, so 2020, and then the month 03. So it's March 2020. That's when this coil model number was. Oh, here we get to see the monoports burner working. So we've got a nice, beautiful hot flame coming out. Very little discoloration, which means it's not in need of service or maintenance. So these are what they call individual monoports. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is probably going to be like 80,000. This is, what is this? Trane American Standard. It's the same thing, American Standard. So, but yeah, gas furnace is on. Looks pretty clean. So here's a bath exhaust fan. It vents into the attic. All the other ones seem to vent outside. So we do recommend taking this little white duct. Actually, I don't care for the plastic. The solid metal is better. And then extending that out to the eaves, so all that moist air from the bathroom can be discharged or expelled outside. Just make sure all the insulation stays in place, especially at the walls. This is the second layer down below, lower section. Bracing looks good, rafters look good. Good birds cut. Upper attic looks good. They actually had some air baffles, and this is the area I peeked through from the top. And now I can see down here. So all these walls have insulation. That's good. Just finished tucking that one back up. There's some that's fallen. Go ahead and put those back up, just like we seen at the fireplace. We just want to make sure that everything stays insulated so the walls aren't exposed to susceptible mold. Gas lines, black iron looks good. See a little piece missing there, and you'll see some white powder look. That's the suspected mold. So we're at the very upstairs, and we got the attic stairs, and I've been trying to get this thing to close all the way, but it just seems to stop midway. So go ahead and get that adjusted, the spring tensions adjustments, so we can get that attic stairs closed. This is the air filter, 24 by 30. As you can see, the arrow is facing the wrong way for the air return. This is the one that's a dual. So basically the air filters go this way, because which way is the air being sucked? This way. So which way the arrow goes? Airflow this way. Alright, so we got that Flip those air filters around, you should be good. So I'm in the garage. This is a solid wood door. It's fire rated. Got all the weather stripping, and it's got a self-closing hinge. Right above that door, right where this fur down is, you'll see a little small hairline crack. This is typical, especially when the headers of the beams of the walls rest on the top plate. So it's typical to see a little crack. Nothing serious to worry about. All right, looks like they've done some patchwork right here. When you get over to the window, that second one, I couldn't open any of these windows in here just because there's too much stuff over there. Looked underneath the window. There's a little bitty seam right in the middle where the paint's kind of peeling away. Just do a touch up on that. The garage door was operated. It works fine. The electric eyes work, even though that's a red light and this one here is a green light. It still worked when I put my leg out. And then they also have what they should have, an anti-reverse or a pressure sensitive switch. So basically when the door is starting to come down, apply a little pressure on the door, it should come back up automatically. That did not respond. It does have the capabilities, so we do recommend some adjustments on that. That way we'll have two safety features installed. There was no outlets tested here. There's really not many places I can get to in this garage. I didn't see any outlets here. I do see an outlet with an extension cord there, but that runs behind that area. We do recommend that it is GFCI protected, and you may want to consider adding some more additional outlets. So when taking a look at the exterior door that leads outside, so we have the garage door, we have this door, and then we have the door that actually leads inside. This pedestrian door, you'll see that they have a metal plate right there. That door is all rusted and rotten out, so probably replacement of the door slab itself is recommended, because if you open this, got this locked, because if you open this and take a look right here in the corner, you can see that it's rotten out. So we got the electric air handling unit here in the attic, in the laundry room. As you can see, we're starting to ice up here because the blower motor is not coming on. As you can see, it's spinning. That's because I forced it. Most of the time these capacitors will go out and cause the blower not to come on. Right now this is the one that controls the garage. So right now I had it set to 60. I had it on cool and it's on auto, so I'm just going to turn it off, turn this back to where the setting was at 70, and let you know we're not going to be able to test the electric heat or the cooling because the fan blower is inoperable. So just have that capacitor checked out. So at the laundry room where the electric air handler is, we have an emergency drain pan, so a float switch is not required since we do have an emergency drain pan. Although we recommend it, but it's not required. So just have this electric air handling unit checked out. Like I said, I think it's going to be the capacitor. It's going to either be a 5, 7, or 10 microfarad capacitor that controls that blower. I tried changing out the capacitor, make sure that's fine, and you should be able to operate it, so the technician should be able to run the air condition and the heating. So I'm right here by the ACs, and in the laundry room door you'll see the same condition. The bottom exterior door has some moisture related damage and rust. Alright, we're at the hood range, and as you can see, the fan blade is rubbing on the motor, so we do recommend adjustments on that. We'll go ahead and take it down and take a look real quick. Yeah, it's hitting on that squirrel cage. Alright, we're at the gas range. You can hear the igniters going. I'm going to go ahead and just turn them all off. This one's tough, which is that back right one. So we're going to try to do that again. I can smell the gas. It's just not igniting. So I smell the gas for sure.
Your rest comes up at midnight. So when I get down at my station down there, we have 7.5 hours. Correct.
And then this is the Gen Air fan on, low and high. It's a downdraft blower right here. And as you can see, the handle's real loose. So we're going to try to get this to come on low. There we go. And we'll go to high. So the switch works. It's just really loose. So just recommend securing that. So we got the dishwasher right now, and we always recommend securing it. So you can see them wiggling it back and forth. So we do recommend securing the dishwasher.